Halloween night, 2004. Three roommates are snuggled into their beds, exhausted after their night spent fending off their home from ghouls, goblins, and ghosts with tasty treats. When, without warning, a true monster invades their home. It's at that point that their true horror on Halloween begins. This is Night Owl. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Ted, your host, and this is Night Owl. Tonight, we're heading off to the beautiful Napa Valley in California. But before we board our plane, could I ask you for a favor? Could you please hit like, subscribe, and share? It'll really help my channel out. Oh, and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you'll know when our new content comes out. Now, with that out of the way, we're off to wine country. Of course, it's not just the homes of vineyards. It was also the home of three roommates. They were Adrian Insogna, Leslie Mazzara, and Lauren Mianza. And who were they? Well, we'll start with Lauren. She held a degree in political science as well as being a dedicated athlete. Then there was Adrian, who was born on December 30th, 1977, and was described by her family as a student athlete actively involved in the Girl Scout movement. She excelled in volleyball and softball and was passionate about volunteering for charitable causes. Employed as a civil engineer with the city's sanitation district, she hailed from Calistoga, a charming area about 45 minutes from Napa. Adrian cherished her quiet lifestyle and was looking forward to visiting her sister in Australia. At the time of her passing, she was in a relationship with a man named Christian. Adrian had also triumphed over a near-fatal car accident around 1994, which ultimately led to her receiving a scholarship to California Polytechnic, where she earned her degree. Lauren and Adrian chose to become roommates and rented a house on Dorset Street. On their move-in day, Adrian's friend Ben Katz lent a hand, while her friends Lily Perdome and her fiancé Eric Koppel joined them to celebrate with an unplanned housewarming get-together. Adrian and Lily shared a close bond and were planning a trip to Australia together. They enjoyed hitting the gym, and some reports even suggested they work together. In the future, Lily spoke to the media about Adrian's car accident and their tradition of remembering its anniversary. By summer 2004, Leslie, a vibrant former beauty queen from South Carolina turned public relations specialist, became their third roommate. Raised by her single mother, Leslie relocated to California after her mother moved to Berkeley. Her mother said of her daughter, "She was spoiled. She was a princess. We knew that. We adored her as a little girl. She would say she wanted to be a mother, a teacher, a nurse, and Miss America before she turned 21. Fresh from a breakup, Leslie was ready for a change and had accepted a position as a greeter at a winery owned by Francis Ford Coppola. Known as a heartbreaker, Leslie often juggled multiple relationships simultaneously. Their lives as roommates appeared to be running smoothly until October 28, 2004, when an argument broke out after Leslie brought home a boyfriend. Their loud activity disturbed the other two women. This incident marked the first time any of them had brought a man home, prompting a discussion where they established house rules they all agreed upon. On Halloween night, the three women joyfully handed out candy to trick-or-treaters. All three women turned in by 11 p.m., with Adrian and Leslie having rooms upstairs, while Lauren's was located downstairs. Around 2 a.m., Lauren was jolted awake by the activation of the home security sensor light. Initially, she didn't feel alarmed, believing one of her friends might have brought someone home. Sleeping next to her was her golden retriever, Chloe, who began to growl. Moments later, Lauren heard the unsettling noise of glass shattering, followed by what she described as a terrified scream. Cautiously, she got out of bed and started heading upstairs to see what was happening. That's when she heard Adrian cry out, "Please, God, help me. Somebody help me." Lauren could tell Adrian was frightened. She heard someone rushing down the stairs. Panic set in for Lauren as she heard heavy footsteps approaching. Terrified, she fled out the back door into the yard and found a hiding spot. From her refuge, she heard someone escape through a window. Despite the fear coursing through her, Adrian's desperate screams drew Lauren back inside as she attempted to call 911, only to discover the cordless phone was inoperative. As she searched for her roommates, she was confronted with a horrifying sight. Leslie lay unconscious, covered in injuries done by something sharp, in a pool of blood that was alarmingly deep. Meanwhile, Adrian was found on a bed nearby, unable to speak and also bleeding profusely. Realization struck Lauren that both women were gravely injured, prompting her to dash to her car in fear that the intruder might return. She managed to call 911 from there. A nearby police officer responded quickly, but tragically, he arrived too late to save Leslie and Adrian. Over 20 officers went over the area, searching for any signs of the suspect. Evidence left behind by the intruder suggested he had injured himself on the broken glass. Blood was discovered on both a wall and the window blinds in the home, along with cigarette butts found outside. For months, the details of this evidence were kept under wraps. DNA testing of the saliva on the cigarette butts indicated a Caucasian male, specifically linked to the brand Camel Turkish Gold. Investigators later concluded that the DNA from the blood matched the saliva found on the butts. A total of 71 pieces of evidence were collected from the house. An investigation revealed that the perpetrator accessed the home by forcing open the kitchen window. He then made his way upstairs to carry out his crimes against these two women. He went after Leslie first while she was sleeping. Adrian, having heard a disturbance from the bedroom, went to investigate and his attention switched to her. This explains why both women were found in the same part of the house. Adrian had bruises and defensive wounds on her hands. Fortunately for Lauren, the assailant did not enter any of the downstairs rooms. He exited the home after smashing a window, leaving behind some of his blood. The FBI was called in to assist, and within days of the crime, a $100,000 reward was announced for information that could lead to the arrest and conviction of the perpetrator. The community of women felt a wave of panic, especially those who worked at local wineries and tourist attractions. The police indicated that they believed the perp may have been acquainted with one or both victims. Napa Police Chief Jeff Tronley emphasized the need for the public to be vigilant about any signs of unusual behavior or injuries in those around them, such as missed work or increased anxiety. One of their neighbors named William Bevins stated that his daughter lives right next door. She's traumatized, and so is he. She was thinking of moving, but after speaking with the chaplain and neighbors, she felt a bit better. And one of their other neighbors, Rosemary Jones, said about the three roommates that they were all really nice and family-oriented. Neighbor Lee Shaporis shared that she and her 2-year-old daughter had visited the women's home on Halloween. The young women, dressed in jeans and gray sweatshirts, appeared cheerful and were preparing treat bags for neighborhood kids. The layout of their home is similar to theirs, where you have to walk through the house to access the stairwell, she noted. Whoever did this would have had to be very deliberate. It's a quiet neighborhood, the kind where everyone waves to each other and walks their dogs, said Annette Barrett Simpson, who lives a few houses down from the victims. Police investigated the women's friends and past or current partners to uncover any possible motives for their targeting. Napa Police Commander Andy Lewis stated that they were looking for more background on the three roommates, who their friends, co-workers, and associates were, to explore potential connections. They wanted to determine if this was a targeted attack rather than the actions of a random stranger. Adrian had been dating a man named Christian Lee, who was quickly scrutinized early in the investigation. Police even approached his home in the middle of the night to question him. He said that he was sound asleep when they pounded on his door. When he opened the door and saw about 5 detectives, the officers inquired if he had any weapons in the house. He told them that he had one and asked if he could retrieve it for them. They quickly said, No. Just point to where it is." The police confiscated a knife, his bed sheets, some clothing, and samples of his blood. He was taken in for questioning. Christian informed the police that he had seen Adrian the night of the crime. She had visited his home but left around 10 p.m. to head back to her place. He further explained that they had been arguing frequently, and their relationship was tumultuous. Adrian wanted Christian to commit to her, but he was hesitant. She had recently mentioned meeting another man and indicated that if he wouldn't commit, she would find someone who would. Christian remained a primary suspect until DNA tests on the blood found at the scene exonerated him. His DNA did not match, and there was no other evidence linking him to the crime. Meanwhile, two friends of Leslie spoke to the press about the men she was involved with. They revealed she was dating a man named Beau, along with an unnamed older gentleman. Katie and Vanessa shared that this older man became enraged after seeing flowers Beau had sent to Leslie. Katie remarked, "He had this really dark, evil gaze, and that she'll never forget his eyes. He was jealous." Amy Brown, Leslie's oldest friend, had told her that she needed to get rid of him. Investigators from Napa searched Leslie's computer and found an email that caught their attention. From an old boyfriend she had met in Alaska when she was just 20. He was a dude named Aaron Davis, and he had said, "She was the perfect woman. She was everything that he was looking for, and more." He had proposed, but Leslie had turned him down. Although they split over 5 years ago, Aaron had recently attempted to reach out to her. He said that he had hopes that he was going to marry that girl. There are other women out there, but there's no one like Leslie. A total of 1,300 people were interviewed, but police still were not getting anywhere. Authorities gathered 218 voluntary biological samples from men who had interacted with the victims in some way, and none matched the DNA found at the crime scene. Adrian's friend, Lily, expressed her frustration over the slow progress in capturing the killer. "Someone must know something," she said, believing that the perpetrator's behavior had to have been obvious to those around him. She held on to hope that Adrian had at least managed to injure him in the struggle. Lily also mentioned that everyone had their own theories. Lily opened up about the tragic loss of her friends. She went to the viewing, and it was clear she had fought hard. There were bruises all over her body and cuts on her hands. Adrian was never one for turtlenecks. She absolutely despised them. But there she was, wearing one in the casket for obvious reasons. Lauren was filled with fear for her own safety following the crimes. Nevertheless, she decided to go on America's Most Wanted and other programs to share her story. She requested that her face be blurred, hoping that someone watching might remember something from that night. She said that she was just lying in bed when she woke up and sensed that something was off. Then she heard a scream. All she could think was that she had to get out. There was someone up there who might come for her. She kept repeating, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" She leaped out of bed, standing outside her bedroom door and straining to listen. Then, she heard the footsteps of the perpetrator racing down the stairs, and she said that she was paralyzed with terror. Her instincts told her to go out the back. It was the quickest route, but she thought that she was basically inviting him to follow her. Almost a year after the murders, police released information about cigarette butts found at the scene, making the brand public. They speculated that the suspect might have been a chain smoker who had stood outside the home, waiting for the right moment to strike. Following this new appeal, Eric Koppel reached out to his parents, hinting that he was planning to take his own life because of his involvement in the deeds. In his note, he mentioned feeling jealous of the friendship between Ariane and Lily. "Wait a second. That's the reason you did it? You were just jealous of a friendship your then fiancé had? Oh my God, dude, you couldn't be more worthless if you tried." As I already said, Eric was in attendance at the housewarming party for the women. He was also Lily's partner, who happened to be Adrian's best friend. Lauren suddenly recalled that Eric smoked the same brand of cigarettes that had been mentioned. Without hesitation, she contacted the police to inform them. Law enforcement attempted to reach both Eric and Lily, but their efforts were unsuccessful. 1 month after the cigarette information was released, Eric's family managed to persuade him to turn himself in. He showed up at the police station with Lily and his parents. He underwent a 5-hour interrogation with detectives. Authorities later stated that his remarks were interpreted as a confession. Eric faced 2 counts of causing their passing. Now, at the time of the crime, Lily's and Eric's relationship were kinda on the rocks. They had broken up and even canceled their wedding plans in Hawaii. At the time they got canceled, Lily and Adrian made their big plans to go to Australia. In fact, Eric and Lily had fought about their relationship at a party they were both attending on Halloween night 2004. But they got back together and were married about 3 months after the crimes. On the day they wed, Lily said that she was disheartened by the fact that no arrest had been made. And she said something that is kinda ironic now. She said that somebody must know something. Somebody would have had to notice their friend acting strange or had bruises. Doesn't seem like someone could walk away from it acting fine. Adrian's mom was actually at Lily's wedding, and she was pretty shocked by the news that Eric got arrested. She said that she never thought of him being dangerous at all, and that she never got any kind of sinister vibe from him. Eric went to the funerals of both victims. And, of course, the media talked to a lot of people that knew Eric, and most described him as a bit unfriendly and inconsiderate. But they all agreed that he was definitely a chain smoker. On the 14th of October 2005, he pled not guilty. When the DA was asked about a motive, he said that they are still trying to understand what led up to this tragedy. Although the motive is a human interest side of this story, it is not an element of the crime. Sometimes people do unthinkable things and we never know why. His hearing got underway in May 2006. The sole survivor Lauren told the court about the horrific events of that night. Detective Todd Schulman described how and where they had found the suspect's DNA. The stuff that Eric had told the police was entered into evidence, in which he said that he knew he had done what he did to the two women, but his memory was pretty spotty on the details. He claimed it was because he consumed too much beverages at a party earlier and was not in the best condition. So bad, in fact, that Lily had to drive him home. Once there, he passed out. But later on, he awoke, he grabbed his weapon and zip ties and went over to the house on Dorset Street. He said that he had no idea why he grabbed the items or why he went to the house. He said that he had a cigarette over by the garage which caused the security light to turn on. He then used his knife like a pry bar on the window to gain access to the home. Once in their home, he went directly to Adrian's room. He then laid on a pile of clothes on her floor. I'm assuming that was some weak-ass attempt to hide. But it didn't work. Adrian still awoke and turned on her light, which startled Eric. He then jumped onto the bed to carry out his deed. He claimed it was at this point that he blacked out. But a few moments later, he heard someone in another bedroom, so he headed there. He claimed that he had his eyes shut the entire time and that he couldn't remember hurting anyone. He did, however, remember getting rid of his knife and burning up his clothing. But he couldn't remember anything else. Well, dude, I live all the way in Ontario, Canada, which is pretty damn far away from California, but I can smell your bullshit from here. Anyway, his lawyers never claimed that it wasn't his DNA, or that he was even there that night. They did claim that mental illness was at work that night and that Eric was suffering from depression and had thoughts of ending himself that night, and that was the reason he did what he did. The prosecutors, however, fired back that these crimes was carried out and prepared and under a watchful eye, and not by someone that was some impaired dude that happened to come across the scene randomly. He was there because he wanted to be there. He did what he did because he wanted to do it. Plain and simple. However, Eric's lawyers ended up talking to the victim's family to see if they could work out some sort of plea deal, which they were successful in doing. On the 6th of December 2006, Eric pled guilty to the crimes he committed against Adriana and Leslie. That decision ended up saving his life, seeing how part of the plea deal was that he would only get life in prison without the chance of parole. If he hadn't taken that deal, well then there was a very real chance that he would have been ended by the state. At his trial, he was allowed to address the families of the victims. He said that he cannot fathom an explanation for his sinful deeds, the terrible agony inflicted upon a great number of people. His relationship with Lily was in jeopardy and crashing. It was all like it fertilized the seed of anger in his heart. There was rage inside him. If he had only listened to those who pleaded with him to get the help he needed. In a victim impact statement, Adrian's mom spoke of her daughter's injuries and said that her daughter never wore a turtleneck sweater in her life, and yet she had to be buried in one, and still, it could not hide the extent of her wounds. Lily was also allowed to address the court. During this, she turned to address her husband and said, "Eric, there is nothing you could do to make me love you any less." These words are just as true today as they were on that afternoon. Now, that statement, as you can probably well imagine, really stung and hurt the victim's family. I mean, what the hell was going through her head to say such a thing right in front of the victim's family? But even after all these years, Lily is still married to Eric. On Halloween night 2004, 2 lives were taken. A third had her soul shattered by what she saw, and 2 families were destroyed by one senseless act. It just goes to show you that not all monsters arise from the pits of hell. Some are a lot closer than you think. Well, I believe that is where we'll end it for the day. But please tell me what your opinion is, especially when it comes to Lily's choice to stay married to Eric. I mean, is that a choice you would have made? Or would you dump your spouse like a hot potato if it was you? Let me know in the comments, please. And as always, please remember to hit like, subscribe, and to share this video. It really does help me out. Until next time, remember, be you good or be you wicked, everyone deserves justice. Good night.